I've been living a double life for years. My GF accidentally texted me, meant to send it to a friend. He has no idea I have another boyfriend in the city. A minute later, she followed up, sorry, my phone got hacked. I didn't argue, just said I believed her. For Valentine's Day, I booked us a romantic dinner at her favorite restaurant, the same one her other boyfriend was at with his wife. When she saw them across the room, her face went pale. She begged we leave, but I had other plans. Some people say ignorance is bliss. I say knowledge is power, especially when you're the only one who knows that you know. Megan and I had been together for 3 years. We met at a friend's wedding, started dating a month later, and settled into what I thought was a solid relationship. Not perfect. She traveled frequently for her consulting job, often spending 3 to 4 days a week in the city, about 2 hours from our suburb. But we made it work, or so I believed. The text came on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk, reviewing some code, when my phone lit up with a message from Megan. I've been living a double life for years. He has no idea I have another boyfriend in the city. Sometimes I almost slip up and mention Robert, but Alex is too trusting to notice anything. I stared at the screen, blood rushing in my ears. Alex? That's me. Robert was someone I'd never heard of. Before I could even process this, another text arrived. Sorry, my phone got hacked. Ignore that weird message. Someone's playing a prank. Right. Because hackers regularly send specific texts about affairs using people's real names and accurate relationship details. My first instinct was confrontation, demand answers, scream, throw things. But something stopped me. A cold, calculating voice in my head said, verify first, plan carefully, don't show your hand. So I typed back, no worries, figured it wasn't meant for me, hope they didn't access anything important. Her relief was almost palpable in her response. Thanks for understanding. These hackers are getting crazy. I'll change my passwords. That night when she called from her hotel in the city, I acted completely normal. Asked about her day, told her about mine, said I missed her. The entire time, I was opening a new document on my laptop, creating a timeline of her travel patterns over the past year. The next morning, I began my investigation, not with jealous rage or desperate stalking, but with methodical precision. First step. Verify Robert existed. I had never checked Megan's phone or social media before, trusted her completely. Now I logged into our shared laptop where her Facebook remained logged in. No Robert immediately visible in her friends, but in her message requests, multiple conversations with a Bobby Walker. Conversations that started innocently, then progressed to plans, hotel rooms, inside jokes. Can't wait for Tuesday. Alex leaves for his conference and we have 3 days. Missing you. Just 2 more days until Alex goes to his mom's for the weekend. Got us reservations at Aspen for Valentine's. We deserve something special. Aspen, an upscale restaurant downtown, her supposed favorite that we'd never actually visited together because it was too expensive for regular dates. I took screenshots, then checked her Instagram. More evidence. Photos I recognized from her solo work trips showed subtle hints of another presence. 2 wine glasses in a hotel room reflection, a men's watch visible on a nightstand. Next, I searched for Robert Walker in the city. There weren't many, and only one seemed to fit, a finance executive at a well-known firm. His social media was semi-private, but his LinkedIn and company profile provided enough information. He was married, though his wife's name wasn't visible in the limited public information available. Through some creative searching and cross-referencing mutual connections, I discovered his wife was Catherine, and they had been married for 8 years based on company newsletter mentions of their anniversary. The pieces aligned perfectly. When I traveled, she was with him. When his wife posted about business trips on her public professional profile, he was with Megan. They'd created an intricate dance around their primary relationships, using our trust as cover for their affair. I considered my options. Confronting Megan would just lead to denial, tears, promises to change. Contacting Catherine directly seemed messy. Then I remembered. Valentine's Day was coming up, and based on their messages, they had reservations at Aspen. I called the restaurant, pretending to be Robert, confirming his reservation. Just double-checking my Valentine's Day reservation. Yes, Mr. Walker, we have you at 8:15 p.m. on the 14th. Table for 2. Perfect. I immediately booked a table for 8 p.m. under my name. For the next 2 weeks, I maintained absolute normalcy. Bought Megan flowers, planned our special Valentine's dinner, listened to her increasingly elaborate lies about her work schedule that conveniently cleared Valentine's evening. Not once did I let slip that I knew everything. When February 14th arrived, Megan was noticeably tense. She'd prepared her story carefully. She would work late but rush back for our 8 p.m. reservation, meeting me directly at the restaurant. "I hate working on Valentine's Day," she pouted that morning. "But I'll make it up to you tonight." "Don't worry," I assured her. "Tonight will be unforgettable." I arrived at Aspen at 7:45 p.m., dressed sharply in a tailored suit. I requested a table with a clear view of the entrance and explained to the host that I was planning a surprise for my girlfriend. I didn't elaborate on the nature of the surprise, just slipped him an extra $50 to ensure we'd be seated at my preferred table. At 8:10, a couple was led to a table across the dining room. A man matching Robert's LinkedIn photo, and a woman I presumed was Catherine. They were seated at an angle where they wouldn't immediately notice our table, but would be clearly visible to anyone sitting where Megan would be. At 8:15, Megan arrived looking stunning in a red dress I'd never seen before. She kissed me, apologized for being caught in traffic, then followed the host to our table. I watched her face carefully as we approached our seats. 3, 2, 1. Her step faltered. The blood drained from her face as she spotted Robert and Catherine across the room. For a split second, pure panic flashed in her eyes before she regained composure. "Something wrong?" I asked innocently. No, just, thought I recognized someone from work. Let's request another table. The draft from that door is terrible." "We can't move," I said calmly. "I specifically requested this table for the view. Trust me." She sat down reluctantly, positioning herself to keep her back to Robert's table. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the menu, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. "You look nervous," I observed. "Everything okay at work?" "Fine, just busy. You know how it is." I nodded sympathetically, then excused myself to the restroom. On my way, I made a detour to the Walker table, where Robert was mid-story with his wife. "Excuse me," I said. "Are you Robert Walker?" He looked up, confused but professional. "Yes, that's me. I'm Alex, Megan's boyfriend." I extended my hand, the color drained from his face. His wife looked between us, confusion dawning. "I think we should talk," I said. "All of us." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "All of us?" "Yes, my girlfriend, Robert's girlfriend, is sitting right over there." I pointed to our table where Megan was anxiously checking her phone. Robert started stammering excuses, but Catherine was already standing, scanning the room. When she spotted Megan, her expression hardened. "Wait, I recognize her from Robert's company event photos. She's introduced herself as his colleague." Catherine's voice was ice cold. "The consultant who's always coincidentally in town when I'm traveling." I led them to our table. Megan was checking her phone when she heard approaching footsteps. She looked up, then froze completely, a statue of betrayal caught in the spotlight. "Robert?" she whispered. "Catherine? What's?" "Surprise," I said, taking my seat. "I thought we should all have dinner together, since we're practically family at this point." Our server appeared, professional but clearly sensing the tension. "Shall I bring 2 more place settings?" "That would be perfect," I replied. "And maybe some champagne? We're having a reunion of sorts." What followed was the most excruciating, captivating dinner of my life. Catherine, bless her, recovered quickly from the shock and transformed into an interrogator that would make federal agents envious. "So how long?" she demanded. Neither Megan nor Robert answered. "Fine, I'll ask Alex. How long have they been sleeping together?" "Based on my research, at least a year, possibly longer," I supplied. Though there are gaps in my intelligence. Megan found her voice. "Alex, please, we need to talk privately. This isn't what it looks like," I finished. "Because it looks like you've been lying to my face for years while building a relationship with a married man. It looks like you've been using my trust to facilitate your affair. It looks like you two have been playing us for fools." Robert finally spoke. "We can discuss this like adults. There's no need to make a scene." "There's no scene," I said. "Just 4 adults having dinner. Though I should mention that I've taken the liberty of ordering champagne. We are celebrating, after all." "Celebrating what?" Catherine asked darkly. "The end of lies, the beginning of clarity." The champagne arrived. I raised my glass. To truth, however ugly, however painful, it sets us free. Megan tried once more. Alex, just let me explain. The text wasn't meant for me, right? Your phone was hacked? Which is it, Megan? Because both can't be true. She stared at her plate, defeated. Catherine turned to her husband. And you? 8 years of marriage thrown away for what? Hotel room rendezvous and secret dinners? Robert looked genuinely pained. Kat, it just happened. I was going to end it. When? Catherine and I asked simultaneously. The dinner continued in this vein for almost an hour. Other diners pretended not to watch the drama unfolding. The staff maintained heroic professionalism. By dessert, everything was in the open. The timeline of their affair, the elaborate lies they'd constructed, the future they'd tentatively planned together. Finally, I signaled for the bill. I've already taken care of our portion, I told the server, handing him my credit card. They can handle theirs separately. Megan grabbed my arm as I stood up. Please, we can work through this. I made a terrible mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or buying the wrong gift, I said quietly. This was a deliberate choice you made every day for years. I turned to Catherine. It was a pleasure meeting you, despite the circumstances. She nodded, a new resolve in her eyes. Likewise, thank you for your directness. I walked out alone, leaving the three of them to sort out their own endings. In the parking lot, I took my first full breath in weeks. It tasted like freedom. Megan came by our apartment the next day, tears streaming down her face. She alternated between begging forgiveness and accusing me of deliberately humiliating her. She tried calling repeatedly that night after I asked her to leave, sending dozens of texts oscillating between apologies and anger. I didn't block her number, wanted to preserve every message as evidence of her instability. But I stopped responding after telling her clearly, I need you to move your things out by next weekend. She moved out the following Saturday, her mother helping her pack while shooting me daggers. I stayed silent, documenting everything in case she tried to claim I'd mistreated her during the breakup. I heard through our mutual friend Claire that Robert and Catherine were in counseling, attempting to salvage their marriage. Not my circus, not my monkeys. 6 months later, I received a letter from Megan in the mail, no return address, but her handwriting was unmistakable. I read it carefully, absorbing her explanations, justifications, and pleas for closure. Then I filed it away without responding. Some chapters don't need an epilogue. People say living well is the best revenge. I say the best revenge is whatever liberates you from lies, whether that's a quiet exit or a public reckoning. I chose the option that made the truth undeniable, that prevented further manipulation, that closed the door so firmly it could never be reopened. Some might call it petty or theatrical. I call it necessary clarity. Sometimes the only way out of deception is through the brightest spotlight you can find. Update 10 months later. Since many asked for an update, here's where things stand. Life has normalized in ways I wouldn't have thought possible the night of that Valentine's dinner. I've moved to a new place closer to my office, reconnected with friends who got sidelined during my relationship with Megan, even started dating again cautiously. The most unexpected development came 3 months ago when Catherine reached out through Claire, our mutual friend. We met for coffee, strictly platonic, as she and Robert were in the final stages of their divorce despite his efforts at reconciliation. She wanted to thank me for my approach to exposing the affair. Most people would have just told me privately or confronted them separately, she said. Your method left no room for them to manipulate the narrative. She's since become a casual friend. We meet occasionally to compare notes on recovery and moving forward. There's something uniquely bonding about surviving the same betrayal. As for the main players, Robert was apparently demoted at work after the scandal affected a client relationship. Catherine had more social connections in their industry than he'd calculated. Actions, consequences. Megan, according to Claire, moved to the city permanently. She's been telling people she ended things with me because I was controlling. When someone mentions her hacked text message, Claire made sure that screenshot circulated. That narrative crumbles quickly. The restaurant Aspen has become something of an inside joke among my friends. One of them made me a custom gift card to the place for my birthday with "drama not included" printed on it. For those asking if I regret the public confrontation, not for a second. Private confrontations allow liars to continue lying. Public ones force reality to the surface. Could I have handled it differently? Sure. Would it have been as effective? Doubtful. Some readers suggested I should have just walked away quietly, that the elaborate setup was unnecessary. To them I say, 3 years of my life were stolen through systematic deception. My exit needed to be definitive enough to prevent any possibility of her manipulating me further. The most valuable lesson from all this? Trust your instincts, verify your suspicions, and when it's time to act, do so with absolute clarity of purpose. Emotional reactions give manipulators leverage. Strategic responses leave them powerless. I've been asked if I have trust issues now. Of course I do, but I'm working on distinguishing between healthy skepticism and paralyzing suspicion. The former protects you, the latter prevents you from living. For those in similar situations wondering, what would this guy do? I don't recommend my exact approach unless you're absolutely certain of the facts and emotionally prepared for the fallout. But I do recommend refusing to let someone who betrayed you control the narrative of how things end. Lastly, to the person who asked if I'd have handled things differently if Megan had been truly remorseful immediately after the accidental text, probably not. Real remorse would have meant confessing everything right then, not inventing a hacking story and continuing the deception. By the time I discovered the truth, honesty was no longer on the table as an option. Life continues, better than before, with clearer boundaries and sharper instincts. The dinner that ended everything also began something new, a life without compromise on the things that matter most: honesty, respect, and the courage to face truth even when it arrives on the most romantic night of the year.